when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hello, book clubbers. We're doing that Finished a Book Boogie today. I hope you're doing it. I hope you're jamming in your seat. We did it. We completed the 5th novel, The Tales of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky. Hi, Lana.
Hello. Officially halfway done, baby.
How did it happen?
I don't know.
We blinked.
We blinked. I remember you telling me the timeline for these books, and it's like, man, that's going to be a long time. I love this series. I love talking about this series with you, with our community. What a joy. It feels so great seeing that last page come up, and I'm so excited to talk about those last few pages, baby.
I gotta say, I don't think we've talked about this particular thing before, but I absolutely love and this completes the 5th tale of the Malazan Book. Like, I love that little
the sign off,
little coda. Yeah. So good. So satisfying. You just
so satisfying.
Yes.
Well, I did it.
We got a lot to dig into, the thrilling conclusion of Midnight Tides on this episode, but we always start with a non-spoiler topic so that if you are not caught up with where we are in the reading, you can still hang out and talk books. We got a phenomenal question sent to us at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We love getting those questions. We love having this part of the show be defined by what you would like us to talk about. And this one comes, Lana, all the way from New Zealand.
Oh.
Sent by, I understand, a hobbit.
It's actually Peter Jackson himself.
This comes from Mr. Peter Jackson. I was not familiar. I was reading it as Jackson. No, it's Steve. It's Steve from New Zealand. Steve writes in and says, "Hi, Lana and Jeff. Thank you so very much for introducing me to what has become my favorite book series. I am loving following along each week." Here, Steve. A pre-spoiler question for you. The Malazan books are very well suited to second read-throughs, or third or fourth or fifth if you talk to some of the folks in our community. Do you ever reread books? What has that experience been like? I seldom do, but I feel I've had a wide range of experiences, from I have no recollection of this at all through to I know exactly what happens at each point in this book. I imagine Lana likes to reread Sanderson books over and over while she quietly shimmers with rage. Simmers even.
That's how hot the rage is. Shimmering hot.
You shimmer. Don't even look straight at her. You can't. He says, sincere thanks again for all you do. Thank you, Steve. We, as Lana and I were talking about this, we couldn't recall if we had talked about this specific thing before. We may have, or it may have been in a different conversation on a different podcast at a different time. Regardless, I think it is worth talking about again now that we've been through 5 of these novels in particular. I kind of feel like maybe
it's worth a reread of the discussion.
There you go. So, what do you say, Lana? Are you a rereader of books? And if so, what has that experience been like?
I have only reread like a couple books, I think, in my life. One of them was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know how to say his last name, I'm realizing as I try to say it out loud. The Alchemist by Paulo.
Alali. It's Alali.
It's Alal.
Oh, sorry. I got that wrong.
One of them was like this fantasy series I think I mentioned on the show. I have no idea if it's actually good still, even though I read it like 6 times. Wayfarer Redemption by Sarah Douglas. And I think at the time, one of them was because I had no other books. And so I was like, well, I got to read these ones again. And one of them was because I was like so determined to like find meaning and what does it mean for my life? And I'll let you choose which one was which. And so I haven't gotten that much joy from rereading books in the past because I usually want to digest something new and be sort of looking onwards and having more things to talk about and more sort of touch points for my own inspirations and creative learnings. But let me tell you, I am not only eager, someday I feel like I will desire a reread of this series. Maybe not like a really in-depth reread where I'm like really digesting everything the same way that we are, but because I've learned so much about myself and my reading patterns through talking about these books with you and like how I usually read things and my inability and my slowly getting better ability at remembering characters' names since the beginning of this series, that I feel like I've retained so much more of these books than I ever have with probably any book I've read in the past, that I would be eager to go back and see how much sticks to me, what things really stand out to me on that second read, especially Gardens of the Moon, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, hearing Erikson talk specifically about how these books were designed to be reread, and certainly we'll get to it this week with the end of Midnight Tides, because there are so many things that I'm like, this is going to completely change, would have completely changed how I experience all of the previous novels.
Mm-hmm.
Specific moments are flashing back in my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just hanging out with Troll Sengar for the whole previous book would be a completely different experience having lived through this experience in this book. So I don't think I've ever desired to reread a book as much as I do with this series. I don't think, I mean, I could be not recalling or mischaracterizing an author's intent, but I don't know if I've ever read books that were so suited, so designed to be reread. And I think there's something kind of magical about that. But I very much have not been a rereader. I've been as we've said numerous times over the course of our doing the show, I'm a very slow reader and I take forever to decide what I'm going to read next. And that is because I feel like I walk into any library and look around and it's just overwhelming. Like there's no lifetime long enough, at least for me as a slow reader, to get to all the stuff that I want to experience the first time, let alone the second time. So I have almost never reread. I think I read, A Song of Ice and Fire before the TV shows were ever a thing. And then when the TV shows were coming out, I revisited them in audio form because I'd read them. And then I was like, I was listening to them while I was training for a marathon. And that was a really cool experience because not only was it sort of revisiting material I was already familiar with on a certain level and refreshing myself before diving into the TV show, but I was also experiencing it in a new way as interpreted by a narrator. So that, and then I think maybe the only other book that comes to mind that I've reread multiple times is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, just because it's so fun to.
I've never read it. I think we've talked about
Lana.
that. I know.
Oh, I know what I'm getting you for a present.
I heard it was a book only after the movie was like announced, and then the movie was not ideal. And I think you needed to.
The movie's not great.
The people who read the book, they saw things that they'd only seen in the book, so they were very excited about it. But pacing was wacky. The whole thing was a little bit wacky, and people were trying to make it a cult thing so quickly. Like, I brought my towel.
Yeah. I mean, but that the book came after the radio play. It was a radio play originally.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the original I want to say, I don't remember what year. I'm not going to get it wrong. I will get it wrong if I say it. Quite, dated. A radio play is phenomenal. It's so fun. Original BBC Douglas Adams penned radio play. It's great, and worth maybe even having it be your first exposure. Although you said you saw the movie, but
I didn't retain anything from them.
Yeah, but the
Literally
book
nothing.
is so delightful, and the sequels are so delightful, and it's such a quick read. I think you would love. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Dang. Well,
know.
I will definitely check it out in some form or fashion. Radio play, I'm very intrigued by. I like a good radio play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it started its life. It was first written in that form, and then
Did they have all the stuff like, oh, it's this number 42? Or
Yeah.
is that like really?
the answer to the question of life, the universe, and everything? Yeah.
Is in the radio play? To me, that's like such a contemporary sounding bit, isn't it?
I mean, I mean, it is contempt. I guess it's very
Not that contemporary.
ahead of its time. I
Yeah.
mean, my favorite line from the Hitchhiker's. I mean, we could just do a whole show on Hitchhikers, but my favorite line from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is how you can fly. Is you throw yourself at the ground and miss.
Oh,
That's I mean,
cute.
you can't write anything better than that. That's just like that's genius. Throw yourself at the ground and miss.
That's
great.
sweet. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
But yeah, you reread it?
I've many times. I mean, I listened to the radio play. I've read the book numerous times. I love it. I hope to read it to my son at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Our mutual friend Danish gifted me a illustrated version of it to read to him.
Cute.
So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, just don't usually reread stuff, and don't usually encounter stuff that's intended to be reread, or that will be, I think, as rich a rereading experience as Malazan will.
Well, the thing I like so much about it is I feel like it would have been so easy to be like, this was intended to be reread, and have so many moments that are like, wink, But
Yeah.
there are, I think, relatively few of those moments. Few enough that like while it's happening, I'm not like, oh, this is going to be something that I have to think about later. There's
Right.
like beautiful connections, and like I actually wrote down a question to ask Steven when we talk about making these sort of beautiful reready moment like connections, like how forward thinking, whatever. That I think are, if you never catch one of them, you're probably not thinking I'm an idiot, because they're not
Right.
like hitting you in the face.
Yeah.
Like there's not like such foreshadowing. Like I think a lot of what was that book? To Kill a Mockingbird? No. Hunger Games.
You just swung in quality so broadly right there. Woo!
Yeah, the Hunger Games were like, there's one character that's, oh, you look at my watch.
Pulitzer Prize. No, big blockbuster popcorn movie. Yeah.
In the books, there's at one point where the foreshadowing is like, the one guy pulled up his watch and he said, wow, look at my watch, and described the watch in detail. And wow, this watch, I wonder what time it is. I sure wish I could tell the time. Have you seen my watch? And then he like walks away, and then the main character is like, I wonder why he did that. It's probably nothing. And it's like, oh my God, boo.
Yeah.
There's none of those moments in this book that I feel like it's just so tastefully done, and it is so exciting to feel like you get those little glimmers, and it's great. It's great.
Well, we should dive in, because we got a lot to get to. Even with just a single chapter in the epilogue, there is so much to talk about. So thank you, Steve, again, Steve from New Zealand, for sending this in. And again, please do keep those coming. We appreciate you. But let's say spoilers starting now for the entire novel of Midnight Tides and everything that came before it in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. We start the final chapter, chapter 25. We start, not as crazy as it's about to get. Just with Shirk arriving at the little hideout, and we have this kind of moment of professed love from our boy Ubala Pung.
Oh my goodness!
And ever since last week, when you were like, maybe. Oh no, it's Shirk, and I'm thinking of. Never mind. I was thinking of Serendipity. Yeah. But I thought that was a lovely little moment with Ubala Pung saying, "I love you."
I love how their relationship, like, because like time has passed since they were first introduced, and you get the affinity that they sort of feel from each other immediately where she's like, okay, this guy, come with me. You want to steal some stuff? He's like, hell yeah, I do. And there's like immediately that little spark.
Yeah.
And then seeing one more glimmer, like, oh, Ubala is going to be sad because I'm not there, but he's going to get over it. I'll be back soon. And then seeing them like come together in this moment of love that's built, it's like so sweet to get those little spikes of their relationship and
Yeah.
the understanding of time. And it wasn't like Saren where it's like, what in the heck? What do you mean you're in love all of a sudden? It felt like
Right.
a genuine thing.
And it's what he wanted all
Yeah.
along. Ubala Pung. He's like, I don't want to just be used by these three, you know,
Ladies.
animal
Yeah.
ladies.
Yeah.
I want to be, you know, I really want to have some feeling. And then you get the character who has this insatiable drive, you know, for the physical. And that actually gets him the thing he wanted, which was beyond the physical.
Mhm.
And like, it's the thing that's so amazing in these novels is that even the most, you know, frivolous of side characters, seemingly, a
Mhm.
character who exists in a large stretch of the novel to be a punchline.
Yeah.
He even gets this kind of poignant little beautiful moment of three-dimensional humanity.
Especially because that moment where he's like genuinely bummed out because he's like, no, everybody just wants me for my stuff and not
for my Ubala
not
Pung.
what's it. Nobody wants what's in my heart, in my head.
Yeah.
Tejal's like mocking him for that. He's like, you know, sympathy belongs to the small membered, my guy. It's like all like a jab. And then it just is so, yeah, you're right. It's just so sweet that it comes back around. I love that.
It's one of the things that I'm sure will come up numerous times in this episode as we get all these crazy revelations at the end of this novel. But it's also something I want to bring up with Mr. Erikson as he, you know, when he rejoins us, is just the constant the way that small characters end up having a big impact at the end. You know, the characters that we think, it tends to be the case, especially in the fantasy genre, that the character you spend the most time with is the one that throws the ring into Mount Doom. You know what I mean? Like the character that has to do the biggest thing is the one that we spend our most time with. And he's constantly not undermining, but you know, zagging instead of zigging. He's
He's
so
subverting those expectations,
subverting.
baby.
That's the word I was looking for. Yes, subverting the expectations, and it's very thrilling to be inside when you're reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ubala Pung is one of those, because he's like, "Oh, my gods are awake," and they're like, "Oh, that's great for you." It's like, no, we pray to the gods to keep them away.
That must be the gods that they're heaping dung on.
Right? Yeah.
Right? They're like,
That's
all
so
right.
true. Good point.
Because I was like, they're like faces in the rock, kind of, which
Yeah.
is like a Toblikai thing, but they're literally, this is like their
Keep
dung
them
heap.
away. Make it stinky.
Yeah. Icky. Yucky. Empty the
Yeah.
bedpans on those bad boys.
All right. The next scene, we're back with Roulade.
Oh, but there's, or is
go
it,
ahead.
is that where it ends, or do we get, is it Harlist?
Yeah, Harlist is there. He's
Is
hissing.
this the
and
same
he's like,
scene? Is it the same scene? I just love that she's like, oh, okay, bye, Ubala. And she's like, anyway. And he's like, like immediately like trying to get his fang on. And she's like, ugh, it's me. Shut up. Let's go.
Yeah. He's so funny too. And he's like, she's like, I'll take you to a cemetery. He's like, yes, cemetery. Yes.
And just like, again, passage of time has happened. Was he really in there the whole time?
Yeah.
It was
They
like-
keep saying like he's just the happiest guy living in a sarcophagus. You
Oh
know?
gosh.
Just where he would
being a
live his
creep.
best life, you know, living his best death is what it was. Anyway, so we're back with Roulade and Troll and Hanan Masag and the whole gang. And really, I felt very good about myself, because it didn't take long for my little prediction last week to come to fruition, which is Roulade is losing it. Losing it. Udnas is gone, an apparent betrayal. And that means Roulade is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
He, the last shred of his sanity escaped. And
Yeah.
he's just, he's no more Rulad. It's all we. It's all him and the god and his former selves and his future selves all wrapped up under. The other visual I really like that I didn't touch on is that he's become like so jacked underneath the coins from the weight of having to hoist them around all the time.
Yeah.
He's just not anything that he used to be.
Yeah. And I also love this reveal of, as we slowly weave our way to the end, of what Hanan Mossag has been doing. It kind of crept up on me, right? And in retrospect, you're like, oh yeah, he did like accept it too quickly. He did, he was the guy who was sort of
worm tonguing it.
Yeah, nakedly ambitious about all of it. And you go, well, obviously the only reason a guy like that shuts up is because he's got a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But didn't see it on the journey, see it in retrospect, which is so satisfying. So, Hanan Mossag is there. Rulad is like, kill all those Lothari soldiers. And his little friends are like, with the sacks, sir? With the sacks? He's like, no. Not yet with the sacks. Wait on the sacks.
Yeah. And that moment, I mean, Rulad, every time he comes back to life, is like really horrifying. Like this, like he's just screaming and it's like so sad. It's pathetic. And just knowing that it's like that teenager in there, Yeah. But like how quickly he's like loses his mind. He's like, kill them all. He's like, use your magic. I don't care. When like the last week we're talking about like him finding that sanity and his brothers needing to see him be this guy. It's like, no, he's not. He was that guy for like one more day. And now he's no longer that guy. It's back to anything you can do. Kill them all. We're done here.
Yeah. And then we have this fateful moment too, where Troll hears that Mayan has escaped, has run off, and he tells the Boone brothers, go get her. Mm-hmm. Do whatever you need to do. And if you see Udanas, kill him. Yeah. Which, Troll is not innocent in this. He tries to be the good guy, but in this moment, that's a pretty ruthless command. It's like, I need to pull my brother back out from this downward spiral. And the only thing that's going to do that is his little slave friend. Get that guy back here. I don't care how, or no, I mean, kill him, It's
just another like we've seen Troll's character flaw. Like his main flaw is sort of like but I'm right kind of moment. Him like trying to step in for Fear early on with Rulad and being like, don't you see him? And Fear's like, don't you think that I have my own life under control? Like butt out. And he's like, like kind of being whiny middle brother kind of situation. Yeah. And then now with this moment of like this ruthless call, it's again him being like, I knew it about Udanas and I'm right. And there's like, he has this flawed righteousness to like his own personal. I
told him not to betray him and he did it anyway.
And now look, it's his fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I had one job and it was not to betray my brother. So the next scene is just awesome. Iron Bars is like, oh, the Toblakai are back. I mean, he told me not to go in there, but screw it, I'm going in. And he goes in and just starts fighting the Toblakai in the coolest way ever. I just love this guy. I love Iron Bars. He showed up super late in the novel and immediately became the coolest cat in the whole place.
What a setup to it. I think it could be challenging to sort of maintain a stack rank of power in this world. Yeah. And it's like, okay, quick bands somewhere up here. Gods though, or right. He's not a god, whatever.
Yeah, he's not a Animander Rake level. He's not, but he's kind of I would say above Whiskey Jack. Yeah, like it's
to have Karsa and the Toblakai have their book, have their time, have their prowess be like dang, they fighters. They are incredible. And these are the gods of the Topokai now. So you're
Right.
like, okay, pretty powerful. And Iron Bars is like, well, up too. And like just jumps in the middle of 5 of them, being like, this won't last long, but it'll last long enough. And the fact that it's not over instantaneously is like,
Yeah.
holy schmoly, this guy's got it.
So cool that he's just like, I could just distract them. I can keep them occupied and stay alive and dance. Like the idea of it being described as this dance. I'm just going to keep making a miss for some, and at a certain point, it's like, it's not going to work forever,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to do it. And he has some of the coolest badass guy lines where he says, I just killed a god. If I had known this was a day for killing gods, I would have paced myself. I'm like,
yeah, I love that.
Iron bars. More like fire bars.
Yeah. And him being like,
Bitten bars.
they're like, oh, you killed the I forget the name of that god. And he's like, yeah, 6 of them, 5 of you. And it's like so
Yeah,
sassy.
it was
but
the
like
Divers, right?
The
He was
Divers,
like,
yeah.
you killed the god of the Zhek. And he's like, yeah, that turned into 6 wolvies or lizard
cats.
thingies. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So cool. The pack, it was called, right?
The pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, sure hope Corlo comes and saves me soon. Here we go. You know? So awesome. And then they have that great line where the Topokai go, why is he smiling? And it's just so rad. You're just like, yeah, he's in it. And then we immediately cut to Bug, who's like, well, the one thing I hope is that Iron Bars fella didn't decide to go running in on his own.
I know. Like the very next scene, he's like, that would be so bad.
I mean,
he's not supposed to win. He's supposed to just distract him for a little bit of time for the other guy to win.
Everything will go fine if the one thing doesn't happen. Anyway, just hope that he doesn't do anything dumb. Like, I don't know.
And even then, he's like, isn't he like, but I'm on my whoa, no, something's happening. And he immediately does not go to support. Exactly.
Okay. So then we get to the S really hitting the F. When this book just kicks in, this chapter really kicks into high gear. This, it is just a swarm of me going, oh, what is happening?
Yeah.
So first we start with Garen Ebericht, who's off to kill Tehal. The Shavencrat, you were right. All hail Lana, because you were right about the Shavencrats. I was like, oh, they're going to get shredded. I mean, they do get shredded, but they are portrayed as being pretty awesome bodyguards.
The guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the Shavencrats takes down 6 Idur from Garen Ebericht's personal cadre of badasses before they get taken down. So 2 Shavencrats murdered. And we see Mayan. We don't know I didn't know it was Mayan at first.
The one thing I like is 2 of them are down, and even then, Garen's like, "There's only one more, but it's still one more Shavencrat.
It's still a Shavencrat.
Yeah,
don't take it lightly. It's a Shavencrat."
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees, an attractive lady running through, and he's like, awful, awful thoughts. I didn't put together it was Mayan quite yet.
I did, because she had the blade, and
you're smarter than me. But still was still this crazy tense moment where he's like, I'm gonna go. It's such an awesome, a beautiful encapsulation of what makes Garen Ebericht so slimy
despicable.
And exactly, is him being like, get him, guys. I'm gonna go get the lady over here. It's like he just runs away from the fight.
Even before that, so it's like Mayan runs, and the first thing he does and be like, well, guys, it's on the way, right? And they're all like, wait, yeah, boss, it's on the way. And then it turns to him being like, because somebody else comes out of the alley. It's not Troll. But I think there's like another, that's when the other Idur come out of the alleyway, and he's like, he really does be like, everybody on him except for me. I'm getting the girl, and then
Yeah.
turns and runs.
Right.
And it's like just the double slime ball. Slime ball that the immediate thought is, I cannot wait to assault this woman, and it's going to be so convenient because I'm going that way anyways. And then extra slime ball of,
I'm even going to betray my own dudes on this
yeah,
one.
yeah, brutal.
Super slime ball. Then we're with Tehal, who's like, oh, hey, the Shavinkrat can talk. And the Shavinkrat's like, yeah, bad things. 2 of my brothers are dead. We got to move. We got to get out of here. And he's like, are you sure? He's like, yes. She's like, let's go to the warehouse. I know we'll be safe there. We're back with Garen, who is approaching Mayan. She, rather than being apprehended, she just stabs herself, kills herself in the chest with the Letheri fishing knife.
Yeah.
And immediately Garen is pummeled. Now, did you get who that was immediately? Because I didn't on first read.
That was, what's his face? Big boy.
That was the guy
Shirk's,
huh?
Was it not Shirk's boyfriend?
No, that's who I thought it was too. I thought it was Ubala Pung.
Yeah.
That's who I thought it was too. It's not. Because he is busy heading over to do what he eventually does.
I assumed this was like him on his way. But then there is a scene later that, now that you're pointing out that it's not him, there's a scene that like follows, like comes back here where I'm like, where the heck did that guy come from?
He's described as being so huge and brutish that I immediately thought it was Ubala Pung as well. And because Garen has no idea who it is, we the readers don't get a specific naming of the guy, but we're told he's Narek.
Yeah, I thought he called him Half-Blood.
Half-Blood Narek Tarthanol, right?
Isn't that Ubala?
No. I know. I was confused as well. It's Un, the character that when Bug goes as like his off hours, when he goes and heals those people, and that woman crawls all the way back.
Yeah.
And then there's that giant dude who's like, who did this to you? I'm going to go kill him.
Yeah.
That's him. So he accomplishes what he meant to do. This giant dude who we meet in just a half a second in that one scene where he's like, that he killed the matriarch of our family, or whoever that lady was. I'm going to go make it right. He succeeds and kills Garen Eberict.
You know, I so appreciate that you called this out. Well, 2 things. One, Ubala's Tarthanol too?
I think he's Tarthanol.
But he is Tarthanol.
Yes, because the Tarthanol are who worship
the 4 lungs.
Yes. And I think they worship the Toblakai.
Yes.
I think. Yes.
Yes. And so, okay, I'm not like totally crazy for thinking that was him.
Right.
Just
but I don't believe that Ubala is Narek. And I think that's the key differentiator.
Yes, you're right.
That we needed to pick up on.
But I'm so glad you brought this up.
It's so long ago that we saw that guy for half a second, like, I'm going to go, avenge the death.
Well, I thought at the end of the book, and one of the things I was going to talk to you about was we got payoffs for all of Bug's side quests.
Oh, yeah.
But not that one, but we did.
Yeah.
I just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive that you even got that far through the labyrinth of Bug. And by the way, kudos to you for sussing all that out way ahead of me. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So Tehal sees Mayan die. This is the part that's crazy. We see a spear throw. We see the Shavinkrat leap in front of it, spear into him. Like, oh, Shavinkrat, you were a great bodyguard, bro.
And he shouldn't.
He did it.
He did it. But also, it was one of those moments where he shouldn't have been sacrificed. But Tehal's heart, he like stepped out, is what I pictured. He was like, oh my God. And then the Shavinkrat was like, no, man. And had to run out and had to die. He wouldn't have had to if Tehal had stayed back.
Yeah. But in that moment too, because then what happens with Tehal is that Tehal starts getting brutally pummeled. And I'm like, oh man, does Shavakrat sacrifice himself for nothing?
Yeah.
To not even save him? It just
Yeah.
felt so doubly tragic. And you have these Idur who are like, this guy killed Mayan. He's gonna pay. And he's like, I didn't, doesn't matter. And the way it's just so systematically described of like, they shatter his shin, they break his ribs,
Arms.
they
Yeah.
like something, his insides spill out. I was like, but he's okay, right?
I
He's
know.
Tail, he's okay. He's gonna be okay though.
It was like, there's a beat where I was like, you wouldn't do this to me, Steven. You wouldn't do this to us, Steven. Like I was in complete denial immediately.
I was too, and then I was like, no, this, you know what? I get it. He's doing it. He's killing. And then I thought there was a part. I mean, we're gonna get to Hull next, because then the next scene is Hull has this crazy interaction where he is killed. But he's like, well, no, this isn't supposed to happen this way. Look, hey, no, and his sort of like innocent, you're not supposed to attack me, and this Narek kills him, stabs him in the back, literally, which is poetic on its own right, because it's one of the tribes that motivated Hull's entire sense of
this campaign that he's on.
Yes. His guilt and his sense of honor was because he wanted to do right by that tribe, and then they're the ones that kill him.
Yeah.
It just was like, oh man. And so I had this moment where I'm like, Tehal dies, Hull dies. Breeze is the Bennett brother that knew he was going to die. He's going to be the only one that survives. That's what I was like. That's going to be the irony, is both Bennett brothers die. The one that was set to die is going to live. I just thought that was kind of cool. But I mean, obviously it gets more complicated than that. But man, in that moment, I just could not believe that my favorite character from this novel was just so brutally and ignominiously killed. Like,
we don't get like a last quip. We don't get like, there's no sense of closure. I was prepared for that to be the reality, but I was like genuinely in denial, not because I'm like, I know this is going to be fine or whatever, but because I was like, I'm not ready to accept that that's his end in this moment. If it ended, and obviously I'm jumping a bit ahead, I feel like I would have closed the book and like mourned him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I mean, but there's been plenty of characters in this series already that we've mourned,
But what love I have for Tehal.
I bought it in that moment. It is so, it's not like he had this great showdown with,
I know.
Garen, like all the things that you feel like would happen.
It was like irreverent.
Yes.
To who he was and what was created
like
for.
Theridas and Midic Boone, like these are the guys that are going to take him down.
Yes.
This is these 2-bit.
These nobodies.
So good. Anyway, so then we have just this exquisite moment of beauty that is the reason I love these novels. The reason I love these novels is amidst all of these grand characters that have been, chess pieces moving across the board, among these sweeping narratives, we have this little character of Chalice who's like, I'm not going to let this, you can't do this. I'm going to shield him with my body. Sacrifices himself for nothing, but it's just such a simple, beautiful moment of compassion and humanity and selflessness that it moved me. I was like, that is what a gorgeous, I had to remind myself who this person was in the moment, because there's such a side background character, but even these little characters can have these exquisite moments of beauty and poignancy.
I can't say it Can't say better myself.
Anyway, I love that movie. Okay, then we switch over. I mean, after I'm like reeling from the two Beddick brothers just getting it, Chalice getting stomped, people's skulls being crushed under boots. I'm like, no. We head over to Turadal Brizad, the errant, who's like
just being sexy and
just hanging out, watching it all go down. Yeah, just well, this is a day.
It's like I see. I said they were early.
Yeah,
I said they were early, didn't I?
Real unfortunate for everybody.
Yeah.
But he does sort of do his little push and pull, his nudging as a god, and moves some of Hanan Mosag's sorcery underground, traps it so it doesn't kill even more people. I was like, errant, a little more, please.
Yeah.
Let's step up the old saving of the lives. God.
You could do a little bit more. I don't know. Oh, I was briefly worried with Garen because, like, we know that Terudal is the errant, and so now when somebody said the errant, like upon us or whatever, as we do these things, I'm like, but you really were in the palace, and Terudal's in the palace. Does the errant really backing Garen? There was like something that Garen said that called the errant, but just like in the way that they have through the rest of the book, that I briefly was like, oh no, and then it was fine. But yeah, a little bit more.
You think that when times were good in the old Eternal Domicile, you think that when somebody was like, errant, take me, do you think that Turad would just like grin in the corner like,
beckon?
They're talking about me. I'm a curse word. Okay, so and then we have Corlo, who I don't know if we ever heard his last name before, but it's Corlo Orthos. Orothos. Orothos? Cool name.
Orothos.
I love that name. Coro Orothos. I was like, yeah. Coro Orothos rolls some Rolos in his
Oreos.
There you go. Very good. So we find out he's a high mage, which, not too surprising. He's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there, cross-legged, like just messing with people's minds, trying to help out Iron Bars in his fight by just messing with the minds of the...
Just confusing them every once in a while.
So cool.
Yeah.
But, and he's just sitting there, like, as people move by, Ubala Pung's like, I'm going this way. And he's like, all right. Ubala breaks off this massive tree branch and goes running in there.
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
I also like that it was like, okay, so Iron Bars is a badass, but also there's a high mage in there working some mind games.
Yeah, I like that too. Like, it's like, you're not going to take down 5 gods. And he is awesome, but, I like that awesome? There's like...
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we get back to Udnas, who is just on a tear as the Wyval has completely possessed him and is just murdering Jacques, just like slashing Jacques, breaking his body apart as it kind of, I don't know.
I'm having such a time like envisioning what this looks like, because it's like it's talons, there's wings. But it's definitely still Udnas. Is it like he's got like one claw coming out of his stomach and wings and a head? Or is it like, I really had a hard time picturing these two together, because at some point, I think right in this thing you're about to say, it fully busts out of his body.
Yeah. I imagine it like
and I'm like, is it like
sack. Udnas at a certain point is just a skin suit that this Wyval is wearing. And he's breaking out of it from, he's coming from the inside out. It's like what's that movie?
Alien.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's a movie. Is
it Men in Black?
Yeah, that too. There's another movie where a guy's mouth opens and a wolf comes out of it. I don't know. It's kind of like.
Oh, is that? Yeah, that's
American Werewolf in Paris. No,
that's the one.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I envisioned it. Is that it's like ripping through his little skin sack. Either way. Pretty intense and going just the opposite direction from where Udnas needs to be to make Rulad okay. And it shoots past Corlo, also shoots past Ubala, and it's heading to the barrow for its master. Cut to the barrow where Kettle is. She sees this giant creature dive into the ground, and the Udanos's body falls on the ground. It's all shredded.
Yeah.
And Withers shows up, and she's like, Withers like, hey, can I have some of your blood? Just a little of your blood. I just need a little of your blood. Can I have some of your blood? Because you're alive now.
That means you're magic. And just a little bit. And she's like,
your blood.
Just a little bit. She's like, why don't you want it? And he's like, don't tempt me.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. She's like, if my blood can make things back to life and you are just a wraith that used to be alive, couldn't I make you back alive? And he's like, I'm doing something nice right now.
For the first time, I'm not being mischievous, and you're making me want to be. I liked that. And I also like that she's like, okay, I'll just take this sword. And it like, I could picture her being like, it's barely going to cut me, and being like sliced. And she's like, that's sharp.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah. And then we're back with the iron bars, just barely hanging on. You know, he's like, this isn't going to last very long. He's got broken arm. He's all sliced up. He's just trying real hard. And then all of a sudden, Ublala Pung shows up, smacks a dude with a tree trunk, and then gets a god and a bear hug. I was like, what a cool thing.
Yeah, just crushing bones.
Just hugging a god to death. You know?
I thought something I thought was interesting that I couldn't tell if it was just like an adrenaline surge or if it was like avowed magic. But Ironbar's hip like fully gives out, and he's like, well, that's it, I guess. And then Ubala shows up at the tree and hugs him, and he's like, I guess it's not. And he kind of like gets back up again and gets back into the fray.
I don't really know what the cause was. I'm sure somebody is gonna tell us, because I think it's there in the text. But I do think he is magically healed somehow. But I don't know if
it seemed like
Corlo
something
doesn't
about
have
his
the ability to do that, right?
Yeah, it seems like something about like his avowed bond, or he just needed to like lie there and be like, it's over. And then I imagine like the force of his vow or whatever it was, whatever horrific deal with whatever devil he's made that made people be like, oh, damn, okay, I trust you, I guess.
Well, doesn't he say something along the lines of like, if I just had a second to concentrate on it, I could, but I don't even have a second, because he's been fighting these 5 dudes. Maybe I'm confusing that with some other part, but I kind of got like a Karsa Orlong-esque. Remember when Karsa could like just think about not being hurt for long enough, and he could, by force of will, not be?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's something wacky in there that I assume has to be with being an avowed in some way.
I suspect you're right, but I'm sure we'll be corrected. So then Bug sees his master Tehal getting stomped by the Idur, and we get the full unveiling of Bug's power. Bug just turns some fools inside out.
Just vaporizes them.
Yeah.
And is this the scene where he vaporizes them? The power of his magical godlike powers.
Yeah.
And like his love for Tehal and the rage he feels in that moment, seeing what has been done to him.
Yeah.
And then he walks up and he like grabs that one guy. He's like, you're going home, baby. And he's like, back to the Adur land. And he's like, no, my home. And sends him to get imploded at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Which we know is that Idur body that we found in the river.
What? Yeah. Totally awesome. That whole sequence where it's like, I didn't think anybody could access the Warren of water pressure.
Yeah.
Well, guess who can? The god of water pressure.
Yeah, baby. Oh, man. So cool.
Sick
so
payoff.
Cool.
Such a rad payoff for that lingering question mark.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we're back to Roulade and Trull, and they reach the entrance to the Eternal Domicile, and they're like, "Should we go in there?" And Hanan Masaga's like, "I'll go in. I'm serving you, Emperor. I'll go in. I'll just want me and my friends and these two completely nondescript leather sacks that we dragged all the way
Totally
here.
innocuous. These
Nobody-
bags, not important. I
Pay
just
no attention to them.
certainly
needed
nothing nefarious or spooky about these sacks.
Just they may be writhing. Don't pay attention. So then we cut inside to Breeze Benedict. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Tour d'Albrazad, what are you doing here? I didn't think you were going to be here." He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to watch what happens." It's like, "Oh, because everyone here is probably going to die." Just, not the greatest time to show up, but all right. He's like, and by the way, the Seta not doing much. And Turadal is like, "Oh, he's done a lot."
Actually, you see the tiles? You think he's just lying on the tile for no reason?
He totally God-splains him.
It totally Godsplains him. Totally Godsplains him. The old mage splain.
And then the fight is on. The big showdown at the Eternal Domicile is on, and it is this incredible clash of magics.
Mm-hmm.
I thought very cool the way it's described, the intensity of it. You get the sense that the Warlock King and the Seda are top tier sorcerers. This is a level of magic v magic we have not really seen.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
And this all happens before Breeze has sort of like a last couple words with the king, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's awesome, this magic fight scene.
Yeah.
Seeing the Seda sort of like lay the trap for the big demon is like, oh, cool, that's what he's been doing. But it's like, no, he has been also charging up his powers to unleash them all. And the way that it's described, this white light just exploding from him, radiating this mist that vaporizes all the Adur warriors who are not Hanan Mosag, is like powerful and awesome.
It's like melting the marble like candles.
Yes.
It's
distorting
so
the
rad.
whole hallway.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I don't know, it just feels powerful and good and like a righteous last stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopeful. It's described as it felt hopeful after seeing a couple of characters' heads get stomped in and being like, well, that's no good.
Well, I also love and this is consistent with this series is we are on all sides of this.
Yes.
We are invested in all sides of this conflict. We're outside with Troll, we're inside with Breeze, it is I am connected to the motivations and I care about the people involved in every side of this stuff. There's no, the good guys are facing the bad guys. Obviously Roulade is dark and so is, Hanan Mosag, but you understand all of it. And there's it's not simple. It's not clear. It's not, clear is the wrong word, but it's not easily.
It's not clear cut. There's not there's not an obvious middle ground. There are the individuals that I'm like, I don't care which side they're on. These are the guys that don't like.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, it's like, well, I hope they talk it out.
Yeah. It's a wild thing to be so invested in every side. There's not just two sides, every side.
Yeah.
I understand everybody's motivations, and that's not an easy thing to pull off. And it's not an easy thing to put the reader in that position. It's so sophisticated. And so, it asks a lot of the reader to not have these clear allegiances. And I think I had a harder time back in Gardens of the Moon with that. And now that I've been inside it, I relish it. I am so thrilled by that complexity. And, you're looking at this multifaceted thing where it's like, it's problematic on all sides. It's like, it's circumstance and history and, these larger forces at work that really are the motivating factor behind all these conflicts,
It's so interesting. Sorry, like as we're talking, it's very hard not to just be like writing down things I want to ask Steven.
Yeah.
But like, it really does feel like the difference between like, I am immersed in these books, but there is not a space for me. Like there's no self-placement. Does that make sense? Like there, I feel like
Yes.
there's books.
There's no audience surrogate.
Yes, that's not what it's about. I do feel like I am witnessing these things, and I am
Right.
and I am enveloped in it, and I am immersed in this world while I'm reading it, but not such that I am like, yeah, I'm walking through the town and doing these things, but
Right.
I am supposed to be this character, whatever it is. It's so delicately balanced, but like the weight that is balanced on this delicate thing is just massive. It's and everywhere. It's crazy.
The other thing that strikes me, and I kept thinking about this as I was reading the end, is so much of any fiction, but specifically genre fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, these myths, the myth making works. So many of them distill down to like the same 3 or 4 people doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's a certain, it's the hero's journey, right? There's a certain wish fulfillment about the very special boy who does the very special thing, or the very special lady who is very special all along. And they realized they were very special, and now they get to do the very special thing. And I say that tongue firmly planted in cheek. I enjoy those stories frequently. But there's something about these books where there is this giant tapestry of characters, and there's something that feels closer to reality. There's a verisimilitude that is achieved, that it's like the swath of history is not written by the same 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look into any historical moment and there's all these ancillary characters that were there and had roles to play. And I feel like to convey that in an entirely fictional world makes it feel, to me, I think realistic is too simple a word,
Mm-hmm.
but more realistic, more.
It's believable and grounded, and to a certain degree, like more relatable.
It feels like real history would be, that there are, of course, the Tehal gets stomped by that nobody, because obviously the biggest, most important people aren't everywhere all at once. That's not how it works. There's some random soldier on the battlefield that, kills the grand general. That's just how it's not because he walks, into the middle of the battlefield against the guy that we've been following. It's just, it feels more, as you say, grounded to have this huge tapestry of people that all play little parts and then spike to being very important in these moments. And I don't know, it's such impressive world building.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So we are having this crazy sorcerer battle.
But like to take what you're saying directly into this crazy sorcerer battle, I think it's back-to-back scenes where we see it from the Seda and from Brees being like, "Whoo, that magic is crazy," and then we see it from the other side of everybody being like, "Get out of the building, we're all gonna die in there."
Yeah,
and then some realization that the Seda, if he triumphs against Hanan Mosag, will wipe the Adur out completely, period. Will kill every last one of them. And it's not Hanan getting powerful enough to overcome that magic. It is in the scheme of what it would be from the Lethari perspective, this other soldier comes out and throws the spear and ends the battle.
Yeah.
He kills the general.
Yeah.
It's not
right.
the rivalry that's happening front and center. It's coming
Right.
from off screen.
Yep. And Troll throws that spear, skewers the Seta, kills him in front of Brees and the errant, who's like, oops,
Well,
that's a bummer.
That's a 2 days. That's a 2 days late consequence.
That's what happens. He's like, hey, whoa, don't go in there. He's dead. He's real dead.
Yeah.
Not gonna change any of that.
Well, and the other detail I sort of skipped over, tying sort of the things thematically, is the only reason Hanan even held it as long as he did is because he held on to those sacks. You know, he
literally held on to the sacks. Literally.
Grabbed onto the sacks, and then he held himself upright, holding on to the sacks.
Did you, in this moment, have any inkling of what was in the sacks? Were you guessing? Were you trying to guess? Because I was like, what are these sacks?
I was trying to guess, but I thought of things that were more straightforward. But definitely, like I was thinking like pieces of the Lethari from the battlefield. I didn't actually think of them in terms of like what the Seta's magic was doing and what it was targeting or how it was working. I just thought it was like a gruesome thing. We collected all the teeth from when we killed everybody and all their teeth rained down. Like that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Did you have any guess at the time?
No, I was like, what could this possibly be? Because it was clearly being set up as a big reveal.
Yeah.
Which it very much is. But I just couldn't for the life of me think of what. And of course, that's the best kind where it's like, of course, that's what it is.
The reveal. This is where I'm like, am I a piece of garbage? The reveal, Hanan, like wanting to show, it feels like somebody who's playing a hand of poker and then wins and then was like, I was bluffing. There's
totally.
a sinister, like not a very good winner. What's it called? A sour,
sore loser, sore winner.
Sore winner. Where he's like, oh yeah, do you see what I did? Yeah, I used them against you. They're your people, idiots. But even then, he like reveals them, and it's like, oh, that's horrific. What a horrific thing to do to people. But even so, the queen is like, good.
I know.
She's like, both of them are clearly being so nasty still that I'm like, I wish I didn't have to think about all y'all again.
It's so true.
This is bad. What you did was messed up, but y'all are still being mean after you're tied up and gagged and used as a magic lever. Like, get over
That's all
it.
that she's got. All she's got is to just be like, ha, ha.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all she's got left.
I would be like, what if you didn't tie her up? I feel like she just would have helped you, man.
So then we're back with Kettle for a moment as she watches that her blood really did heal Udnas. And then her little friend climbs out of the ground and we find out Silchus ruin.
But
Silchus.
Which, we guessed at, but the big
right.
reveal is Wither is not Silchus ruin.
Right. Wither is the third high mage of the 6th cohort, which was going to be my second guess.
Oh, I was right. It was right there. It was one of the two. It gave me that really mischievous third high mage energy.
That's true. Kill and Fear, which is a rad name too.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this really awesome moment where Silchus just gets out and is like, and Wither and the Wyvil are like, can we do stuff? And he's like, as you say, whatever you want. Sure. Knock yourselves out. Have a great time. Don't forget to write.
I was like 10% disappointed that Silchus didn't come out being the gleeful little Wither energy. He's like a serious dude. And I'm like, oh.
And they're just
I like some goblin energy. And he came out like stoic, like a leader of his people, soul taken, whatever.
They're like, hey, master, can we do all this stuff? And he's like, I'll allow it.
Yeah.
So funny. And then Kettle's like, well, didn't you make me a promise? And he's like, all right, Time to fulfill my promise.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're back to Corlo, who's just like at his wit's end. He's like, I've never seen iron bars fight so spectacularly. This is how an avowed, this is the what an avowed can do, which is pretty rad. And wow, how amazing that Ubala Pung really did bear hug that guy to death.
Yeah, just cool. Great.
Yeah. And Shirk shows up with Harlist. They're like, we'll jump in. All right. She's like, wait a minute. I'm here. He's like, yeah, you're my employer. Yeah, you're the one whose ship we're going to be on.
Weren't they on the boat together?
Yeah.
Yeah. She, I thought I told you to wait back in the boat, right? Yeah. Where I was paying you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun little interaction that they have right there about how she's like, this does not bode well for our working relationship. You just ignore my commands. And then Iron Bars is basically on death's door. Ubala Pung, took down one of them, but he's gonna get killed. Iron Bars saves him at the last second, knocking a sword blow away, and then Silcha shows up and just lays the ruin on some folks. Silcha's ruin style.
Yeah, just he ruins them.
Yeah, pretty cool. And then he's like, "Hey, why are you still laying down there, Iron Bars? Get up. Why are you still laying down? Get up.
Walk it off.
Let's do this." It's pretty funny that moment where he stabs the Toblakai in the neck, and Harlist is like biting his leg.
Oh yeah, he's walking, and Harlist is like, it describes him as being dragged by his teeth. So I'm picturing him hands free, like just
so funny. All right, so then we're back to the throne room. This sequence is just magnificent. The way it starts with, you see the coin like enter the room first, rolling on the ground. Perfection. So cinematic. It's like you hear him dragging his bulk, the weight of the coins just coming into the room.
I know it's Roulad's coins, but I briefly was like,
me too.
You were.
Me too. Yeah. The coin, the flipping of the coin from
coin.
Yeah. Opan's.
Opan's charm thing. Yeah.
So by this point, Hanan Mosag is just completely deformed and changed by the magic that he's been using. And they're like, he open the sacks, and they open them up, and there it is. Prince Quillis and Queen Janal. So disturbing.
Yeah. Gross.
And then we have this strange moment where Niphidas pours these 2 glasses of wine.
As soon as I saw that happening, I was like, nah, man.
Really? You're so good. I did not. I thought it was an odd thing to have happen, but I did not make the connection to poison.
Well, it's like what he says, and I was like, bring the goblets. And everything has been very ceremonial or whatever. So I was like, oh, maybe this is part of the ceremony. It's like his last drink. But then whatever he says, and up to that point, he's like, you will defend me. You are my champion. And as soon as he was like, do not die for this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, he does something in that cup. I just know it.
You're so good. I did not make that connection at all. But I did love that moment where he's like, don't die for this. And Brees is like, that's not really how this works, man.
Yeah.
I die. That's what happens. I die. And that's when I made that moment. I was like, oh, the other 2 Beddick brothers die, and he's not going to. Maybe that's how it's all going to work.
As soon as I saw what was happening with the king, and especially because they cut to him a couple times, it's like being his head down and very droopy. Just
been kind of like that for days, right? Ever since
he was sleeping before.
Yeah.
So
the swerve got me because I did not see it coming at all.
I was just feeling more and more sad about it, just because I knew, just because I didn't, there was a swerve that did get me that I was like, nah, man. But Brees showing what he can do, and just thinking about the sadness he would feel, that he's like, I did my part.
Yeah.
my liege, and you gave up on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, that was like sad to me. And then how it actually goes. Please continue.
This part with Brice and Roulade having the final showdown, Roulade being like, yes, I'll do it. I'll fight you. And like knowing me as the reader, knowing like, it doesn't matter if he kills him. And then how Brice just systematically dismantles him. And at the end going, I don't know why, but the Seda says, don't kill him. So I'm not gonna. Just one of the coolest endings to a, I mean, obviously that's not the end, but like that moment to me, I was like, this is utter genius. But it's typical Erikson, where it's like the coolest thing you've ever seen isn't the end of it. You know what I mean?
And like, I really appreciate it, because I feel like there's another version of this where it's like his prowess is such that he kills him again and again and again and again.
Right,
he gets tuckered
right.
out, and then Roulade wins. Whatever, right?
Right.
But we saw with iron bars outside, it would have been like, okay, I guess another guy just being a good swordsman and getting tuckered out.
Right.
But the fact that his skill is so much higher, and the precision, and then how disturbing and tragic the scene is of Hanan only having eyes for the throne and feeling his satisfaction at what is happening in this despicable way, with this despicable path that he's paved for himself. Roulade screaming for his brothers to kill him. Brice just staring like, I did what I was supposed to do, and I don't know what else to do about it. And sort of turning around and giving himself a little victory swig. And then Troll and Fear.
When they're like, well, it doesn't matter, he's gonna bleed out anyway. And he's like, I didn't hit any arteries. And they're like, you did what?
Yeah.
How could you possibly be that good? It's just like,
yeah. They're like so good. Fear's like, well, I'm out. I know everything I've done. Nah.
yeah.
That's it for me, bro. That dude is talented.
Nah. I've seen enough. Yeah. And I love the image too of Roulade just like face down, just unable to move any body part, just all his muscles severed, and he's like, kill me. It's just so pathetic, and like
it's so pathetic, but like it always goes back to that like sadness of like,
yes,
who he is at his core, and like his brothers both obviously feeling simultaneously the pain of like, what is the right thing to do here? Am I going to kill my brother knowing he's coming back, but then I've killed my brother? Am I going to not kill my brother and let him live through that pain, but know that it's right for our people? And seeing them struggle with that, I was like choking up that whole scene, being like, this is so overwhelming.
Yeah. It's an incredible, incredible moment being inside Troll's POV and him going, they did it. They found a solution for the unsolvable problem.
Yeah.
They found a solution. Like, he's not healing. He's not dying to be reborn. He's just in this stasis, in this limbo place between power.
Life and death. Yeah.
And if he stays ever thus, the burden is off of us. I mean, the burden is on us because he's begging me to kill him. So we have to make a choice. But like, it's this Troll recognizes as this beautiful, elegant solution.
Yeah.
And he like the admiration he has for Brice in this moment too is so rad. He's like, he did it. He did the thing that no one could do. And then he realizes, oh, he just got poisoned. And there's nothing I can do about that.
And I was just like, are you kidding me? And like, so sad, just because, it's like tragic, everybody dying all over the place. But even Troll in that moment being like, what, am I going to go try and like end this King's Champion guy? I would lose instantaneously, obviously. And they're like, who's going to make this call? And Roulade screaming for Fear, his first general. And he's like, Fear is lived up to his name. He's gone.
Just pieced out.
He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing sequence that just keeps one-upping itself. And then we're not even done yet. We switch over to Tehal, where Bug has taken him to sort of heal up. And they have this amazing exchange where Bug reveals he's male, which kudos to you for sussing that out ahead of time, which is awesome. It makes me want to reread this novel because like just read all the Tehal Bug scenes again and just think about him as a god. But I love their interaction, his explanation for he's like, but like manservant? Manservant.
That's you could be anything, you're a god, and just like this tenderness, they're so sweet. And like I just think of that scene where Brees is visiting Tehal and Bug is making that insole stew or whatever. And Brees being like, okay, I'll have a cup, and them looking at each other like like we both know it's a shoe kind of thing. And then having this moment of him like nursing him back to health. It's like they got buddies. They're just buddies. Sweetie.
And there's something awesome about a god rediscovering their pleasure in life, in existence, by being of service to someone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A god doing that. Like that, there's something just poetically gorgeous about that notion that he found purpose by being of service, being just of simple service to this other person. That that's something I just thought it was just an elegant idea. It's an amazing moment.
And I think it's in this moment, or maybe it was when he exploded before, that he was like, all right, I know they heard that on the other side of the world. Somebody's going to come knock on the door now.
Yeah. I guess the jig is up. I guess they know I'm here now. Yeah. Then we cut to Fear, who's just sort of wandering aimlessly, trying to sort things out.
He's going by shock these days.
Yeah. And he finds himself standing in front of Mayan's dead body, which is like, oof, brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And he recognizes the fishing knife, and he's like, Udnas, did he do this on purpose? Was this revenge for being a slave all these years to our family?
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome, like how even the misinterpretations that people have is just like, yeah, of course they would think that.
Yeah. I mean, is this the scene where he's corrected, or is that later?
That's later.
Okay. Yeah.
So we go back into now. This is where I think I'm so in awe of what Erikson does constantly, consistently, of showing you the coolest thing you've ever seen, and then one-upping that.
Yeah.
Because we have achieved this incredible, unexpected, but essential, inevitable ending of Rulad being vanquished in a way that is just perfect and exquisite, and you couldn't see it coming, but my goodness, it's just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Guardian of Names walks in, and I was like, oh, right. We had that whole moment where Brees went through the tile and interacted and memorized the names. I'd completely forgotten about all that. But this guy comes back. Or did you not remember until now?
No, I didn't. I was like, I know he's giving something, and I know I should remember, and Jeff will tell me when we get there.
Yeah, this is the Guardian dude that he in like that underwater scene where he fights that guy. The thing that just blows my mind is he's like, oh, hey, I'm going to scoop up this guy that I care about because I had this moment of connection and he agreed to remember the names of, and he's important to me. And, oh, is this guy in pain? let me show him mercy because he taught me mercy. Do you remember? Brees
Yes.
taught him mercy in that moment. And so he pays it forward by undoing everything that Brees did. It's just like perfection.
So good. So good. Oh man, I wish I registered what that was, or like took more time to register what that was before we got here. Oh, that is so good. Because I was just like, this guy comes in, he's like, male, man, come on, bro. And then he goes in and he's like, sees this guy on the ground. He's like, don't say I never did nothing for you. Stabs in the back. He's like, peace out. And then I was like, oh, I felt like I remembered Brees, like I forgot that it was in that tile room, but him being like, oh, we got to get everything. I'm like, yeah, he has like some stuff from being in service to the king, or like there's something that is important about
the Seta. Remember the Seta like sent him through the dolmen.
I remember it all now. He like whips him over his shoulder, and then now that you've mentioned it, I remember the whole thing. And
as the Guardian is leaving the room, right as he stabs Rulad, he says, I recently learned mercy.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. And it was Brees who taught him. It was like, it's just so poetic and tragic. And you have this, as I'm reading, I'm just like, oh, he's undoing the everything.
Yeah. The thing that only he could do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's an incredible turn.
Yeah.
And to set this and to like have a couple of scenes in between it, so you're just like you're sitting with this exquisite ending, this culmination of everything, this,
and you're like, time for the denouement.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, fear's just wandering, thinking about it. This is the climax, and right, this is the denouement. Now we're into like just kind of seeing where everybody ends up, and then I'm thinking to myself, I guess Hanan Mosag is the one that chains Troll. I guess Hanan Mosag is like, I gotta chain Troll up because he's sitting on the throne now. He did it. He won his nefarious schemes. I guess, and then you just go, ah! And the fact that also that Erikson doesn't even need to show us Rulad deciding to chain Troll. We just go, of course.
Yeah.
He refused to kill him.
Mm-hmm. But did he chain Fear?
No, I don't think he catches Fear.
Oh yeah, Fear's gone. He's like, I've got to go discover myself. Yeah.
That's right. Fear is in the new like fellowship of the fellowship of the ruin over here. That the strange group that is cobbled together.
Yeah.
With Shirk and Iron Bars and.
It's like, I heard you're leaving the city.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a cool moment too, where they're like, "Can we go?" And it's like, "Who's that guy under the hood?" He's like, nobody.
He's just tall, and there's no other qualities about him that anybody would want to take note of.
Yeah. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
And and we have this moment with the Guardian showing up with Brees to Bug, and he's like, "Hey, male, can he be my Guardian friend?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, cool."
Mm-hmm.
We'll give Tehal the names of the ancient sea gods, so they're not forgotten, so they're in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And the Guardian carries Brees off to be the second Guardian.
Guardian takes Brees's hand and is like, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Besties.
And then we have this other cool moment with we check back in with the Feather Witch, and we find out that she was the one who gave Mayan the knife.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, who murdered Mayan? Who murdered Mayan? It was like, well, she kind of did. She kind of got revenge for her. Like another incredible payoff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the severed finger that she finds on the floor, was that Iron Bar's finger? Isn't it from one of the fights that a finger gets sliced off?
I thought that was Brees's.
Oh no, you're right. Brees, not Iron Bar. Sorry, Brees. Yeah.
It's Breeze's fingies.
It's Bruce's fingy. Yeah, because you see him lose it in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like she's gonna use it for something. I was like,
Doing to use
what
it
is that
for
about?
I don't know. I mean, we still don't really know who Featherwitch is, only that Saren does.
Yeah.
So who knows? But something.
Yeah.
Something.
And then Trull and Fear kind of find each other, and they're both commenting about how, well, that's weird. We shouldn't have just run into each other. And you shouldn't have just run into Mayan's body. Like this is some serendipity that's beyond the natural.
Serendipity.
Oh!
Hey.
And they speaking of Saren, they arrive at her house. They go to her house because they're like, she's the one that can help us. And just how amazing is this scene?
So good. So good. And him walking on the way, I don't know why, I just felt the need to pick up the sword. Is all of this, I mean, my assumption from all this is that it's Saren feeling deep in the feels, and she's got her Warren abilities just sort of out there. And so she's not really controlling it. And then Trull's just feeling it. He's vibing with the, something in the wind, picks up the sword. I felt like I was hand over my heart, like on the edge of my little seat through this little moment of possibly magical manipulation. Just
an incredible setup and payoff of I want to say tradition, but it's more than that. This cultural practice of presenting the sword at the door of your beloved, to have that payoff like that.
Yeah.
And him being like, her being like, so is it, it's just a weapon for me to, yeah. It's just a weapon for you to.
She's like, totally.
I know.
I just like Fear going and looking at Mayan and sort of recounting his journey with her, refreshing us on that tradition lightly right before we see it mirrored again. And her being like, just a sword. And like that moment of dismissiveness from Trull, and both of them being like, totally no. I'm like,
yeah.
Don't say no like you mean it so much. Just be like, sure. Be less committal about the no, both of yous.
Somebody's got to say it out loud. Neither one willing to. I just wanted to.
Saren and Trull sitting in a tree.
But what a beautiful, beautiful scene.
I like a little tender moment to end. Yeah.
And this what could have been with Trull,
Yeah.
that we see the aftermath of as he's meets his little buddy on rack.
Yeah.
Have you ever loved a lady?
No, but I did look one directly in the eyes once.
I tried to give one a present once.
I made eye contact precisely once with a woman, and in that moment, I was also kind of proposing to her. But you could say I'm a catch. Shoot. Oh, I just think it's like, I keep picturing Saren in all these moments of like, there's been like 3 or 4 times in the book she's like, I made eye contact with him. Could this have been something? And in my brain, it's just like, what is it that SNL sketch is like, what you say? And it's like this music, and then somebody breaks eye contact, and she's like, oh, nothing, just kidding. It's like this.
Every time it's just like, oh, anyway, I just want to, what you say? Every. Oh man. Okay, so and then we get this cool grouping of folks. Kettle and Silchus Ruin and Wither and Udnos and Iron Bars.
Axe.
And my axe. That's right. It's the coolest little band of misfits. I just love the surviving grouping of
like a hodgepodge of everybody across all the cultures, across all the people. We got the Malazans, we got the Letheri, we got the Idur, we got That's it. Those are the ones.
we got a soul taken dragon dude.
Yeah, count it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what's next for this grouping? Because we're kind of back in time before stuff we've already seen.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I genuinely, and I know people are laughing at us, but genuinely have no idea what the next book is about. Like, genuinely,
What's the name of it?
Bone Hunters.
Oh yeah.
Genuinely no idea where we're going next.
I will. Yeah, I got. Is this the very end epilogue?
We have basically the last scene is Shirk coming back to meet Tehal, and they're like, yeah, I guess it's a bad time to crash the economy, and that's it. And Shirk's like, well, I'm gonna go have a pirate adventure, and that's basically it.
Yeah,
basically and then the epilogue's awesome.
Yeah, the epilogue is great with I mean, seems like a lot of people getting on boats at the end of this book.
Yeah. So just to sum up the epilogue, we have just a wonderful little comedic moment with our two demons who did it. They did it. They knocked Serenity, the Forkerless sail, into some sort of deep hole, bottomless pit, and then urinate down it
in perfect unison.
Just amazing. What a hilarious way to end.
Wrapping back around to them, I was like, oh yeah, they did just keep chasing him down.
They did it. They really did it. It's like they had their own adventure, like they're just off screen completely. And it's like they threw her into a hole and then they peed in it. Just amazing. Just amazing. And then we have we check back in one last time with all in the Warren, and he has this incredible moment where he makes a connection, sees this boat out into the water, runs over, knocks over the crippled god's tent. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I was in here. And Bug shows, or Male shows up to give this boat to Withal.
I just love him stepping off that boat and being like, yeah, I heard your prayers, okay? Such a hassle.
Yeah.
And like him showing up, being like, I heard your stupid prayers, get in the boat, and then what's her face being like, and who are you? Withal being like, just get in the boat. Like they're like hate for each other. So palpable.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm positive we didn't talk about it, but this scene, I was like, my husband, Jeff Bodine, he called the knockdown of the crippled god tent.
What? How did he get that?
He was like, Withal's whole internal monologue to this scene where he's like, oh yeah, the Bokerals are always building nests and then they shatter them, and they build the nest and then they shatter them. They've been showing me something. And then him just being like, yoink, and like grabbing it and throwing it in the water and then running away back to the boat while he's like, hey, like that's his whole domain. What does that mean? Can he even build it again? Can he even move? Does he just start his warren fresh? Like, what is the implication to like everything they're saying about that is his space and now it's gone? There's like some implications there, but he was like, don't you think them building those nests meant something? And I was like, I think they're just being crazy little dragons, like whatever.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection.
Oh, I was so annoyed.
Well, it's a pretty awesome ending. And then he's like, Bug's like, oh, I got to go beat a god senseless.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is just pretty rad. Yeah. So there you have it. That's the end of the epilogue. That's the end of Midnight Tides.
Beautiful.
I absolutely adore this novel. I absolutely love it. Start to finish. I there's so much fun to be had. The ending is so satisfying on so many levels. It's funnier. I mean, all the books have had humor in them, but this one, I think,
consistently.
Yes. There's a streak of humor that is amplified, that was so pleasurable to read.
Mm-hmm.
And the action's great. It's a much more self-contained book than any of the previous ones have been, because they've all been sprawling across, all these grander, levels of scope. And this being in this one concentrated location and this one concentrated conflict that plays out over time, I think this is my new favorite.
Well,
Maybe novel ever, but certainly I think might be my favorite of the Malazan.
I was about to ask you, do we read sentence first, or do we stack rank our personal?
Well, sorry, I think we went into the stack ranking. For
So
me, this
hit
is
it.
my new top of the heap.
I forget even what I agree with you, and then otherwise my ranking is unchanged. But
Yeah, me too. I think it's 5, 4, 2, 3, 1 for me.
Yes, that is yes.
Yeah, which is so interesting because so many of the people that I've been, so much folks that we've interacted with in the community have very different rankings, and I'm surprised at that.
4 is at the bottom of people's lists.
Yeah, so
And
many people. I love
I'm
4.
still not.
Yeah.
I'm still not over it.
To me, the notion that Midnight Tides can be beat by anything is just like the idea that people have books in this series ranked higher than this. I'm like, what is waiting for us?
I know.
You know what I mean?
Which is so crazy because we've said that at the end of every book.
I know. It's incredible how it's an amazing thing that he can keep on doing himself.
Yeah. Whew.
This is among my favorite reads of all time.
Yeah.
I just adore this book. I adore its reflections on, we'll get to my quotes, which are directly related to this next comment that I'm about to make. The central theme of Latheris being a stand-in for capitalism run amok, to me elevates this book very highly in my esteem, because it's so palpably a metaphor for America,
The
Western
world we're
culture.
living in.
Yeah. And to have it be such a stark indictment of that way of thinking, and the way it is presented. And I have this section that I'm about to read where he really makes a thesis statement, I think, about what's important in the world. And it aligns very strongly with the way I view the world and what I value. And to have this fantasy novel sort of come to a summation about that level of morality and compassion and humanity. I over and above all the wonderful plotting and characterization and exquisite prose, like to have that theme resonate so strongly makes this book extremely special to me.
Yeah. Well said. So well said.
Thank you. All right. Shall we
do some favorite
get to our favorite passages?
Yes.
All right.
So I got one. I think one of mine is the same one that you were just referencing. So I'll start with my first one, which you referenced earlier in our discussion, but I still love it. This is Ironbar's face to face with the Toblakai gods. It's not good hurting gods. Gods? We are the Seregal, the lead Toblakai said. Before you hurt us, you might have begged for mercy. You might have knelt in worship, and perhaps we would have accepted you, but not now. No, the avowed agreed. I suppose not. That is all you would say? He shrugged. Nothing else comes to mind. You are frowning. Why? Well, I've already killed a god today, Ironbar said. If I'd known this was going to be a day for killing gods, I might have paced myself better.
So badass.
Loved it.
Sorry I stole your thunder there earlier, but yeah, it's such a great line. Such a great line. I paced myself, It's a day for killing gods. So good. So good. Especially because it's like sort of false bravado in that moment too, because he doesn't actually think he can do it. In a certain sense, he's just biding his time,
I like it because like it has the italicized of his internal monologue.
Yeah.
And when he's frowning, they comment on him frowning. And what he says out loud that he's thinking is just like, oh, shucks, I've already killed all these gods today.
Yeah.
And then later they're like, he's smiling and his internal thing is like, I'm going to die right now. It won't be instantaneously, but it won't be long yet. Yeah, it's great.
This is a passage of Tehal, or excuse me, not Tehal, Troll thinking about Lethari's culture. It's a little long, but it's so good. The eternal domicile, a title of such profound conceit, has thoroughly bound into the arrogance of the Lethari as the belief in their own immutable destiny. Manifest rights to all things, to ownership, to the claiming of all they perceived, the unconscionable, brazen arrogance of it all, as if 1,000 gods stood at their backs, burdened with gifts for the chosen. Troll Sengar could only wonder what bred such certainties, what made a people so filled with rectitude and intransience. Perhaps all that is needed is power. A shroud of poison filling the air, seeping into every pore of every man, woman, and child. A poison that twisted the past to suit the mores of the present, illuminating in turn an inevitable and righteous future. A poison that made intelligent people blithely disregard the ugly truths of the past errors, of past errors in judgment, of horrendous, brutal debacles that stained the red hands of their forefathers. A poison that entrenched the stupidity of dubious traditions and brought misery and suffering upon countless victims. If that is not the most perfect way to explain modern American life in so many ways, my God.
Yeah. Exquisite. Replace the places with places in the United States.
Yeah.
And you've got it. Amazing and well read. My next section is related, but it's Bug talking to Tehal, who he's just sort of revived. Answer me this. Why didn't you kill all of them? Halt this invasion in its tracks. I have my reasons. To see Lether conquered? Don't you like us? Lether? Not much. You take your natural vices and call them virtues, of which greed is the most despicable. That and betrayal of commonality. After all, whoever decided that competition is always and without exception a healthy attribute? Why that particular path to self-esteem? Your heel on the hand of the one below. This is worth something? Let me tell you, it's worth nothing. Nothing lasting. Every monument that exists beyond the moment, no matter which king, emperor, or warrior lays claim to it, is actually a testament to the common, to cooperation, to the plural rather than the singular.
Yeah, I had that section marked as well. I think that's the thesis statement.
Yeah.
That's the thesis statement of this entire novel in a lot of ways. I mean, he goes on, the argument continues where he says like, but you need a leader, right? And he's like, only because mortals are dumb. He says only because mortals have only two possibilities: to follow or to lead, nothing else. He says, hold on, I've seen consortiums and cooperatives at work, Bug. They're nightmares. He says, breeding grounds for all those virtues such as greed, envy, betrayal, and so on. In other words, each within the group seeks to impose a structure of followers and leaders. It's like, I love this, and the thing that's so heartbreaking about it is they get to this point and Tehal's like, well, then tell me the solution. And I, as the reader, I'm like, yes, Erikson, please tell me the solution also. And, Bug is like, well, it's not with this species.
Yeah.
It's not this species, sadly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dude, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that section really struck me, not only just because it is so resonant with
Yeah.
like society, but it feels like something that is so like the microcosm of society that is like my career, like corporate video game development, and this like the feeling of competition between
Yes.
people just trying to get into studios, and that sentence about stepping on the hand, everybody's stepping on the hand of the person below them.
Yeah.
And
The
I
hand on
was
the rung. Yeah. It's just like,
like, that is something that has always been at odds with me and something I've witnessed constantly. And I feel like all of the best things that I've had in my life come from lifting each other up and elevating and being a part of something that is bigger than yourself. So that section about the plural rather than the singular
yeah.
and what that means to history,
Right.
it really it sticks.
It's one of those gobsmacking moments where it just sums up something that is a core belief,
Yeah.
and this notion of, the free market, right? The free market competition, the squash the little guy, accentuate profits, move forward, get ahead. It's just like nothing of value has ever been, think of true value. It all comes from cooperation. And I
Yeah.
think that is just such a powerful notion,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Incredible. I have one other last short, I think it's 2 lines, and I just thought it was beautiful. This was this was when Troll and Saren are not quite syncing up. And he says, something like resignation filled her eyes, as if he had wounded something that already bore 1,000 scars.
Uh, 1,000 scars that day, honestly. She got to stop making eye contact with people.
Yeah. He sees it. She's like, oh, yeah, this ended exactly how I expected it to, like every other one. And he still doesn't say anything. He just still leaves. He's like, I get started. And the real tragedy is why the reason he leaves is because he's like, I have to go try to save my brother. And we see we already know how that works out.
Yeah.
His brother chains him.
Ugh.
Just utterly tragic.
Yeah. I have 2 more,
Okay.
but I'm only going to do one of them because it's pretty long. One of them is
You can do
Saren.
both. I don't know. It's the last one. Whatever you want.
Okay. I'll do this one. I really like. It's a bit longer. It is fear. And the theme of solitude versus togetherness sort of comes in again. This is him after Brees does his magnificent work. There had been no time when he'd felt alone. Alone in the frightened sense, that is. Solitude was born of decision and could be as easily yielded when its purpose was done. There had been Trull and Benadas and then Roulade, but first and foremost, Trull. A warrior with skill unmatched when it came to fighting with the spear, yet without bloodlust, and bloodlust was a curse. He well knew among the Idur. The hunger that swept away all discipline, that could reduce a well-trained fighter to a savage, weapon-swinging wild, that strange, seething silence of the Tistadur pulled from cool thought. Among other peoples, he knew, that dissent was announced with screams and howls and shrieks. An odd difference, and one that, for some unknown reason, deeply troubled Fear Sengar. And then, looking upon this champion of the Letheri king, this brother of Hull Benedict, Fear could not recall if he'd ever heard his name, but if he had, he'd forgotten it. That itself was a crime. He would have to learn that man's name. It was important to learn it. Fear was skilled with his sword, one of the finest sword wielders among the Tistadur, a truth he simply accepted, with neither pride nor affected modesty. And he knew, had he stood face to face with that champion in the throne room, he would have lasted some time, some fair time, and might well have on occasion surprised the Letheri, but fear had no illusions about who would have been left standing when all was done.
Yeah, it's so badass. I also love that his sort of recognition of his privilege.
That's
like
the first time we've been in his POV.
Yeah.
And it's the privilege of, I've never really been alone. I've never really felt frightened. These things have always been just a choice kind of been there.
Yeah. I've been able to choose my solitude. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the perfect insight into his world completely shattering, and like why in this moment he could finally make the choice to walk away. I mean, not finally make the choice, but like shows that this is a choice that he can make even now in this, the toughest moment where he's had everything that he's possibly wanted, and the toughest decision, he leaves to Troll. He's gone. He walks away. Yeah. I'll leave it there.
That's crazy. It's so good. It's
book good. Book good.
Well, yeah, book good. Book real good. Series excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't talk about this before we started, but there has been much debate in the Discord, 5x5 DLC on Discord, about whether we continue on to Bone Hunters or we take a side detour to Night of Knives. My vote is to just continue on through the 10 novels, but I'm open to your suggestion.
That is the mission that we set out for.
Stay on target.
Stay on target. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. If we're going to do Night of Knives, probably the way that I would suggest do it is being we read it in one go and we talk about it as like a one-off episode. Yeah. But something tells me that that's not the way that people would like for us to read it. So I say we keep on keeping on.
Yeah, I think so too. And much thanks as always to the folks in the Discord, Saurov and some of the other folks that have already posted our roadmap for Bone Hunters. They had a couple of alternates in case we wanted to go to Night of Knives. They had alternates for that as well. Just a lot of really wonderful effort and care that has been taken to guide us through these novels. So, if you want to see our roadmap, you can hang out in the Discord as well. It is currently posted in the Midnight Tides, the Midnight Tides thread. But they've posted our Bone Hunters beginning. So we're doing prologue in chapters 1 and 2. We will have a little time between novels. We like to take a week and sort of like digest and decompress. And but thankfully, Mr. Steven Erikson has graciously agreed to join us another time to discuss Midnight Tides. So we are in the process of scheduling that. It should happen, I think, pretty quickly here. So we will have another wonderful sit down with the author and post that, and then probably take a week off and then return with gusto for Bone Hunters. So
if you have questions for Steven about Midnight Tides, make sure that you either send them to the email that Jeff will tell you to send them to, or
dlcfeedback@gmail.com.
I should know it, and I don't.
That's okay.
And then the Discord. Ideally, could you tag me? I'm Latine. That's at LATIENIE in the Discord. Yeah. I think I changed it to my real name, so I'm more easily found. And Jeff Kanata, I think, is Jeff Kanata in the Discord. Tag us with your questions so we make sure that we get the pings, and we can get them asked to see.
Yeah, the very most direct way is to send us that email, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We love that. But we will try to collect your questions as any way we can get them. And we love, knowing what you would like us to ask Mr. Erikson as well. So pretty excited to talk to him, especially, in the aftermath of this novel, and just can't wait to keep moving forward into the second half of this series.
Woo!
We're doing it, Lana.
Halfway there. Halfway there.
Thank you for being with us. Let's dance it out.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with the